This is module number 6, creating saved searches. In this module, we're going to talk about what is a saved search, how it can help you highlight critical data, and facilitate your business process flows. Examples: allowing a new lead record to be quickly updated, identify a specific group of customers to be targeted for a campaign. All customers in California who have purchased XYZ in the past 6 months. Identifying customers who have overdue payments. Not just an aging report, but more specific than that. In this module, then, we're going to examine how we define saved search criteria, what are we looking for, and results. We're going to use highlighting and filters to make that information obvious to the user and manageable so they understand what needs to be done. And we'll show you how you can export an email and add saved searches to your home dashboard, sharing that information and make it even more accessible. Our objectives: defining criteria and results, adding colors, formatting to results, filtering options, exporting and emailing, adding a search to the home dashboard. Why a saved search? You need to create a dynamic list of results. You want to incorporate criteria-based row highlighting. So instead of highlighting everything, you want to highlight a particular row based on a condition to alert your user to specific data. Maybe you have to add some complex formulas to get specific results. When you look at a list of customers, you don't want to see standard fields. You want to see the fields that you need to see. So you want to expose your saved search results in list. You want to create a custom KPI or build KPI scorecard components. When we introduced KPIs in a previous module, we talked a little bit about being able to customize. We need to know how to do a saved search before we can talk about custom KPIs. So we'll get there in a later module. Now do a walkthrough now. We're going to start a saved search. We're going to define some criteria and choose results, and then we're going to take a look at it. Okay. Up at the top here, I have a personalized new bar. And when I personalize it, I can select which new things I can create, including a saved search. And I moved mine to the top. You can navigate through other menu paths: list, search, save search, and new. For me, just being able to go up here and click on save search is the easiest and fastest way. When I get to new save search, in my example here, I'm going to choose transaction. And we're going to call this one Module 6, First Transaction Search. The ID, if this is being used for a script or a flow, workflow, you need to use underscore for space and lowercase. We'll talk about public, list view, dashboard view, show and menu when we actually have something to display. For now, we just want to do a save and run and see what a transaction search looks like. Here are the various fields that are available. It's got information going back to 2011, and it's every type. It's inventory worksheet. Looks like there's some journal entries a little bit later on. There's 72,000 lines of data. Way too much information. Let's start refining. I only want to look for a certain transaction type. The type we're looking for is cash sale or invoice. Okay. And I don't want to see things that are necessarily open. So I want to look for a particular status. And I'm looking for a status of cash sale that has been either deposited or not deposited. We have the money. I don't want to see unapproved payment because we haven't gotten it yet. And then I'm going to keep going down to invoice, paid in full. And I used my control key to be able to select multiple. Okay. So we had about 72,000 lines when we started, right? Let's do a save and run here. we're down to 42,000 lines. And what we're seeing now are invoices and/or cash sales. Let's go back and edit this search. We have transaction type and status. Let's look at our results. I have transaction type, but I don't have status. So I'm going to insert and add in status. It's a real good practice to have your criteria in your results so that you can prove to the person you're developing that their criteria is being met. Okay? I've got a star here. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to move it down next to document number. And I'm going to insert a new field. And this field we're going to insert for transactions is called a line sequence number. Transaction has multiple lines. What line is this within the transaction? And I'm going to move down to the label. I'm going to call it LSN for line sequence number. If I leave it as line sequence number, it's going to have a long header. But if I just do LSN, it'll trim the column down and make it a little bit easier to look at. While we're here, let's go into sorting. We can sort by date. We can sort by transaction number. We can sort by amount. We can sort ascending or descending. And we could sort up to any numeric column we choose to. We can show totals. If you're not sure what an option does, you see where you can highlight it, a question mark appears, and you can gather field level help. Okay. Let's save and take a look. We added in status, we added in line sequence number, we moved the star column. So see LSN appears here as opposed to line sequence number, which would be a thick column. And now we see the star, and the star is next to line 0. The star represents the summary amount, the total of the transaction. And by default on a new search, it doesn't know you're going to use line sequence number, so it gives you star to help you identify. Since we are using line sequence number, the star now becomes unnecessary for our particular search, so we can remove it. Okay? Go ahead and save. And now we actually have a search. Every single line's been numbered. Every transaction's in place. We've got our first search. Let's review. You can start from a multiple of menu paths: report, save searches, all searches new, list, search, save search new. I showed you how you could go up to your create new bar, add in save search and move it to the top. Once you've done it, it's easy. It's one click and you're in a new search. Select the record-based type. In our case, we chose transaction. You can choose both standard and custom records. And it's available based on your role and permissions. Do note this box. If your search involves any transaction data, it is important to start with a transaction style of search. It's easier to add an entity, a customer or a vendor, to a transaction search than a transaction-based field to an entity search. So we started our search. We added a title in. We'll talk about the access options a little bit later. You can prefix the search with your initials to make them easier to find. You could use the module APS for accounts payable search, so it's consistent for the whole team. And then there are various components we will look at on the subtabs. Criteria, what are we looking for? And we chose transaction type was invoice or cash sale. And we chose the status was deposited or not deposited for cash sale, paid in full for invoice. We chose our results first at the top. We can choose, do we want to have totals? There's some additional ones in here for permissions-based. The output type, do you want lines, etc.? How do you want it to physically look? Sort pattern, you can have 3, ascending or descending. Choosing your results, we added in line sequence number and we relabeled it LSN to keep the column narrow. We took the star, we moved it down next to line sequence number so we could try to figure out if there was a pattern involved. If you have multiple fields and you've done your homework in advance and you know which fields you want, you can add multiple and select several fields at the same time. You can have a custom label. In our case, for line sequence number, we added LSN, made it a thinner column, easier to see on the screen. You can reorder columns by clicking on the line and dragging and dropping. You can click on a line and remove it totally. You can do save, and there are 3 choices. Save will take you back to the menu. You will not see your results again. Save in email means that you're completed, and immediately you're going to attach a copy of this search to an email to send. The one I normally will use will be save and run. I'm going to save it, and I want to see my results. Now, if I have an issue, I can go back in and continue modifying. When I view my results, I'll see all my columns. I'll see everything in the order I put them in. I can go back in and modify if necessary. In this tip box, if you only get a single result, one result, NetSuite's native behavior is to take you to that record. If you'd rather always be taken to a search, even if there's only one result, in your set preferences, you can actually select Show List when only one result. We're going to go back in and modify our search. We're going to talk about what is a main line, how does a join work, a little bit of highlighting, a little bit of available filters. Okay, we're back in our search. And you notice that in our search we had many lines for the same transaction. We're seeing the total and all the detail. We're going to add in a new piece of criteria called mainline. And mainline is the line on the transaction which says if it's true, give me the total. If it's false, give me the detail lines. By default, it's either. Give me the summary and the detail. So we're going to say, give us the summary only. So instead of seeing multiple lines for every transaction as a detail type of search, I am now going to see only line 0, which is the total for each transaction. What else can we do with the search? On our results, we have the name of the customer. Let's insert. I have a table out here towards the bottom. We go A through Z. Then I have these tables, which are the drop-down fields, the join fields on each record. And I'm going to go out to Customer, Mainline. And I'm going to add in 2 fields. I'm going to add in company name and company size. Okay? And that comes in from the company customer record. Save and run. So this company name is coming in from the company record, and the company size is the number of employees. If that record's been filled in, that data appears. So now I'm getting information from joined tables. I left them both there so you can compare them. Let's sort the amounts. Clicking one time on the line here will allow it to sort. And I want to see the values that I have. So I've got 62, I've got smaller dollars. Let's do one more sort, and we're going to get the largest numbers. And for this, the largest numbers, we're going to see we have 300,000, we have 200,000, we got 100,000. Let's do some highlighting. And the first condition we're going to have is if the amount is greater than or equal to 300,000. Let's add a $sign, and we'll make the text color blue. We'll make the background color gold and bold it. And we're going to call it over 300K. Let's do one more. The amount is greater than or equal to 200,000. And this time we'll do a $2, and we'll make the color orange. Background color we'll make black. And we're going to call this over 200K. We could have more if we needed to, but 2 will give us an example. When I do my save and run, my search will come back up, and you will see conditions that are highlighted as they appear. So they're going to naturally sort out and appear. Now, for purposes of our demo, since we have 8,000 lines, I'm going to sort real quick so I can show you the results a little more efficiently. One time is a descending sort. Second time is an ascending sort. And you'll see I've got my over 300s and my over 200s. And then my below 200s are all normal colors. So you could use a different numbering range if you chose to, but now you see how you can bring highlighting conditions and attention. And at the bottom, it's going to show you your legend accordingly. Last thing is available filters. We already have a date filter on here. Maybe we want to have a subsidiary filter, or we could have a location filter. For those of you that aren't using subsidiaries necessarily, you could use location. And when I do a save and run, you're now going to notice that the user can filter out additional information. I could say, I only want to see it for US West, US East. I only want to see it for headquarters, or Americas, or APAC, or EMEA. You can now use this to be able to filter things, be able to see the version of the search that you need. So you can add filters as well. Let's go ahead and add in our shortcut here. And return to our application. Let's review. Mainline, the ability to say I only want to see totals, yes or true. I only want to see detail, false or no. I only want to see either one, which is the default. So most of the time for a transaction search, you're going to set it at either yes or no. Unless you're like an auditor and you want to see everything, then you would choose either. Joins, records that are found on sublist. For example, when I select a customer from a transaction, I don't actually type that customer in brand new each time. I select it from a list of customers. So these are the fields on that record. We chose name and size. We wanted to highlight some particular conditions, over 300, over 200. It could be other conditions at your choice, but it allows you to bring attention to those records. I choose each highlighting condition individually. I can add an image, text color, background color, bold formatting. The legends would appear at the bottom to let people know what the colors mean. Available filters, by default, you probably want to have at least a date If you're one world, maybe data and subsidiary or data and subsidiary location, to give the user time to be able to make a change locally. It does not affect the searches for everybody else. It just affects their local running. So they can say, I want to see it for this month. The next person in could say, I want to see it for the year. The next person could say, I want to see it for Europe. The next person could say, I want to see it for EMEA, the whole region, for the quarter. You can bounce back and forth. Each person can set their own local runtime. One more walkthrough here. I'm going to show you about printing, export, and email, tracking executions, managing a search via the audit trail. Okay, let's first talk about printing options. When I've saved and run the report, or the search in this case, I have various options available, and these options are similar to the ones available on a report. I can export to CSV, to Excel, to PDF, I can print, I can send an email. Your role and permissions will dictate whether you see these icons or not. When I edit the saved search, there are a couple of additional tabs I want to refer you to. The execution log, when was the search run, who ran it, and were the results exported? The execution log will provide a rolling usage history for the past 60 days. This history will list every user who has run or exported the saved search. Okay. Finally, the audit trail will tell you anything that was worked on in this search, the date, who did it, did they create, update, or delete something, what was the component, and then by selecting the component name, you can see the old values and the new values. Really helpful if you make a mistake and you accidentally remove something or change something. You can see what the original value was, go back into the search, edit it, and be able to bring it back to its original state. So just in what I've done today, these searches, this is all the changes that I made going in. Let's review. Printing, export, email. Options are available to you in the top left-hand corner. Choose how you want to get the information out of the system and to somebody else. You must have the export list permissions to actually see the export button. Tracking search executions, only available to administrators or people who have published search, but it will tell you who ran it, when they ran it, and were the results exported. And it will show you the history for the last 60 days. Search's audit trail allows you to see when something was changed, created, updated, deleted, what was the particular piece that was worked on, old value and new values when you click. Best practice, design, design, and design, okay? I want to do a kitchen, sledgehammer, we talked about that numerous times. Design it first. Determine what fields are required for your criteria, what fields need to be in your results. Look at the records and transactions, familiarize yourself, own your data, where does it live? If the search has anything to do with the transaction, start with the transaction search. If you have criteria, make sure the criteria is reflected in your results so you can prove the concept. If you want to see only one result appear as a search as opposed to be taken to the record, set the preference. And there is a certain search type that you can create called an analytics audit trail if you have the permission. You can view properties of searches and reports that have been deleted. So if somebody accidentally deleted a search, you could actually run an analytics audit trail and find out what was in that search to bring it back. Time for exercise. You have 3 of them in your workbook, and when you've completed the exercises, you'll have completed this module. Do note, here's a quick note here, save your searches as you create them so you don't accidentally lose the search if you navigate to a different page. Use the Save button within the NetSuite window. If you accidentally hit a browser back button before you've done that, you could lose your work. So always save prior to going back if you need to keep your information. Once again, 3 module exercises, and when you've completed them, you'll have completed module number 6. This concludes this module.